Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And tomorrow, well today is my cousin Caroline's birthday, so happy birthday, Caroline. And tomorrow is my anniversary. We will have been together 12 years tomorrow, and we will have been married 8 years. So 12 years ago, tomorrow, Boo Radley, come here, buddy. Boo Radley's trying to get up on the chair and he slipped. How you doing, buddy? 12 years ago from tomorrow, we went on our very first date. And 8 years ago, tomorrow, was the day that we got married at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas, Nevada. And there's the picture right there. People always want to know what this picture is. Here, this is our wedding picture, one of our wedding pictures, so you can see us right there. I had brown hair then, and I was a little bit thinner than I am today. But anyway, so that's about when we first decided on a wedding date. We were like trying to figure out when we wanted to get married, and we knew we wanted to get married in the summer. And Alex was like, I think we should just pick the same date as our anniversary date from our very first date, you know? Hey, Boo Radley, what's going on over there? And I was like, why? And he was like, because I know how you are on liking to celebrate anniversaries and holidays and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, if we just make it the same date, he was like, then we won't have to celebrate 5 different, you know, anniversaries. And I was like, but what if I want to celebrate 5 different anniversaries? You know, what if I want to have the date that we got married and the date of our first kiss, which was the same day? But, you know, like all of that. We won't go into any more detail. But you know what I'm saying. Like, what if I wanted to celebrate all those dates. But anyway, we made it the same date. And I think it was just a fantastic choice in retrospect. Because it's always kind of fun to look at it and say, okay, we've been together 12 years, but we've been married 8 years. And, you know, if you've watched my videos, you know, I'm very, very proud of my marriage. And, you know, it's a lot of work. And anybody out there that is, you know, in a marriage or a relationship, because you don't have to be married, you know, to have a relationship, you know, and it's a lot of work. It's, you know, tough, and you can be in a long-term committed relationship is what I meant, and never get legally married and still have to put a lot of time and effort and energy into it, you know? I have a couple friends of mine that, like, they've been together for a long time, and I think they're kind of, like, scared of, like, you know, getting legally married or whatever, because, like, that'll change everything. You know, you hear about these celebrities that stay together, like, 20 years, and then they get legally married and it, like, changes everything. I don't know, like, you know, for us, so when we first got married, it wasn't legal. They had, like, there was some statute in the state of Nevada or something, because we had to have an officiant in the room, not just the person that we picked, but we had to actually have, like, a legal officiant in the room. And so there was this guy that was there, and then our friend actually married us. But it didn't mean anything, because when we came back to Indiana, Indiana wasn't a marriage equality state. So we got married in 2011. We consider that our wedding. We consider that our wedding anniversary. But legally, we didn't actually get married until 2014 when marriage equality passed. And the day that it passed in Indiana, Alex called me from work and he said, you need to meet me. Like, we need to get changed, and, like, we need to go downtown and get married today before they turn this over and they appeal this thing, right? So he came home and we put on, like, shorts and polo shirts. I should find the picture and put it in here, but I'm not going to. But anyway, because I think I've done it on my vlog before. But anyway, we went down to, you know, the city county building downtown, and we got married, and it was really, really cool. And they had this, like, pegboard, like, map thing where the women that were working there, you know, you hear these scary stories about how people aren't really nice to, like, you know, LGBT couples and things like that. People were extraordinarily excited for all of us that day. And, you know, we saw a lot of friends of ours that were getting married down there, and it was just a really cool day. But everybody was very dressed up, like in suits and ties and things like that, you know, and dresses and all that. And we were in shorts and polo shirts because we had already had our wedding, you know. This was just, we wanted to go through this. Oh, we were also having dinner with my Aunt Kathy and Uncle Dave, like, right after this. And so, I remember it was, like, this beautiful day. I think it was June 26th, because it was right before my birthday. I'm almost positive it was June 26th, but anyway. So, we go in there, and, you, like, if you were, like, if they had not married anybody or bought, like, a marriage, if nobody from a marriage, okay. So we were getting our marriage certificate, get it? Okay. And on the wall, they had two different maps. They had a state map, which had all the counties in it. And okay, so if you were from a county that nobody had been married there that day, you got to put like a thumbtack in there, right? And then they had a world map. And so, like, they were, like, people from all over the world, like, if you've been born in another country, like, you got to put your, like, tack in there from that country. And Alex was the first person from Venezuela that got married in Indiana after marriage equality, which is really a cool thing. I don't know why that gets me so emotional, but it just was a really cool day. And, you know, then they were like, I think it was like $10 more, $20 more. They're like, do you want to have like a wedding here? Like, they'll, you know, do the wedding for you. And we were like, sure, let's do it. I wish I had my, if I can find the picture, I will put it in here. It's just us underneath this thing at the city county building. It's totally different than all the pictures. Oh, I put them over there and Boo Radley's laying on it now. They're totally different than the pictures that we had taken at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. But that was such a great day, you know? And then, they appealed it like 3 days later. So there was actually 3 days in Indiana that you could be legally married. It was like 2 or 3 days. And they appealed it. And so then that was when, like, I can't remember how much longer after that, but marriage equality was passed in the United States. And I had written this article for the Huffington Post, which kind of went a little viral, which probably has a lot to do with why I'm on YouTube today, because that ended up helping me get with my publisher for my book, who recommended later that I get on BookTube. See how the world works? Weird kind of way. But I had written this article for the Huffington Post, and then USA Today reached out to Alex and I, and they asked us if we would like to have our picture on their edition of the marriage equality thing. So there's a picture of us on USA Today newspaper. It was on the actual paper and the website of us going like this with our rings, like after we got married at, there was like a bunch of pictures of a bunch of people. It wasn't just us. Oh my God. I don't know why I just like, this is not what I thought I was going to make this video about today. I'll just tell you that. You know, when I was 17 or 16 years old and I was afraid of coming out, I didn't even really know, like that word to me didn't really mean anything, to come out. I was terrified, I was scared. I was scared that what everybody had been saying about me for so many years was right and that I was gay. I was terrified of that word. I couldn't even really say it out loud to myself, but I knew it to be true inside. I had known it to be true for quite some time. I can actually remember having conversations with myself in my head about like, well, you know that this isn't going to happen, so you're just going to have to like get married and have kids, and this is, you know, like that's what you do, you know, which is very interesting to me because my parents had gay friends, like not that that means anything, but like, I mean, they were very liberal minded. Like I look back and I don't think I ever thought like my parents were going to be upset with me, you know, like about coming out, which they weren't at all, you know. None of my family was, none of my friends were. It was just like, oh, okay, you know, like, I mean, it really was, obviously. I mean, nobody really took, I had one friend that kind of, she just was very uncomfortable with a lot of like coming and being around like my gay friends later and stuff like that. And I remember like one night she's coming to my party and she's like, if I see anybody kissing, yada, 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 yada. And then by the end of the night, she was drunk and we took her out to a drag show and she had the time of her life. So anyway, that was that. But you know, like, I look back at 16, 17, you know, I came out on my 18th birthday. So this summer, I've been out for 30 years. It's crazy to me that I've been out that long because it feels to me like I was in the closet for so long, afraid and ashamed and scared. And, you know, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine probably about 10 years ago. And he's gay and he's married too. And, you know, dogs, a house, the whole 9 yards. And I said, you know, when we were in high school, like I didn't know him in high school, but I was like, when we were in high school, would you have ever imagined like this would be our lives? That we could be like, I mean, I just could not imagine at 16 or 17, okay? That I would just live in the middle of the, you know, Midwest with my dogs and my husband and, you know what I mean? Like I would be actually ever on a video talk. I mean, I can't imagine being on a video, but like actually talking about it in public to anybody, like no, like that would never happen, you know? And that's a lot, I think, where my social anxiety comes from, because I was totally fearful of what people were saying about me, you know, and all of the, like, the bullying that I had received growing up and things like that, physical, emotional, you know, on and on and on. And he looked at me and he was like, oh yeah. He was like, I always thought that, you know, like one day I'd be married to a man. And I go, you did? And he was like, yeah. Like, I really could never conceptualize it, you know? I don't know, like, I think that's why it's important that we pay homage to the people that came before us. You know, like, I don't know, I'm kind of in awe of the gay men and, you know, well, the whole, you know, LGBT community, LGBTQIA plus community. But when I watch, like, documentaries of, like, the gay men that came before me, like, I just watched one not too long ago, and it was about Fire Island. It was, like, Cherry Grove on Fire Island. It's on Amazon Prime or something like that. And it's fantastic, you know? And it was about these gay men that would go there in the summers, and, like, it started in, like, the 30s and the 40s and went all the way through, like, I mean, it went up to current day. But then I watched another one on Amazon, and it was called, like, I like to watch a lot of documentaries about LGBTQIA plus history. I think it's important to know our history, you know? And I've seen this documentary, I think it was called Screaming Queens. And it is on Amazon Prime as well. And it was talking about, like, we talk about Stonewall riots, but there was actually these riots at this diner in San Francisco? Yeah, San Francisco, like 2 years previous to that. I can't remember what the name of the diner was, but basically this diner was where a lot of these, like, trans sex workers would go and hang out, and they felt safe, and they could be seen, and they could be friends with, and not just sex workers, but that was a majority of what was going on over there. And, you know, because they couldn't get any other kind of employment, and they could come there and they could, like, hang out and be with their friends, and they could be seen, and they could feel pretty, you know, and they could feel noticed. And the police officers would come in and they would harass them. And there was a riot one night that was very similar to like the Stonewall riots, but it was like 2 years before, but nobody talks about it, right? Like, it's important that we pay homage to these people before. I watched every documentary about people that have passed away from HIV and AIDS, you know? I watched a documentary, We Were Here, that was about San Francisco. That just blew my mind, you know? And I watched a documentary, what was it called? How to Fight a Plague. That is probably one of the best documentaries I've ever seen in my entire life, you know? And it's important to know our history, and I guess to some degree, like, the older I get, I realize I am kind of that history, you know? And I'm so thankful that the younger generation doesn't have to grow up. And I know that there are still, you know, younger LGBTQIA plus people that are coming out and they don't feel safe, or they don't feel like they have the support. Like, that is a reality in our life today. But I'm so happy that they don't have to live in a world where they don't have to feel dehumanized because they can't get married like everybody else, you know, or think that that's a reality. And that better not ever change. Like, that better not ever change and go back. So anyway, what is wrong with me today? See, I get all, this is why Alex only wanted one date, not two. Okay, let's read from Melody Beatty, Journey to the Heart today. Woo! I had just started reading the meditation and my camera died. Okay, August 24th, let the lesson reveal itself to you. What's the next lesson, I asked. If you knew what it was, you wouldn't need to learn it, he said. Often, in the midst of a lesson or experience, we tighten our minds into knots trying to figure out what we're learning, what's coming next, what the lesson is really about. But if we knew what the lesson was about, we wouldn't need to be learning it. The learning we're doing on our spiritual path is often not possible from our heads or books. It's a process of discovery. It includes many twists, turns, surprises, and upsets. Much confusion, wondering, and stumbling until we reach a moment of clarity. To learn the lesson, we need to go through the experience. And usually we learn best when we're a bit vulnerable and uncertain about what we're learning. Trust that the lesson will reveal itself to you when it's time. Stay present for the moment. Let your experiences and guidance unfold. You're evolving and learning and growing right now. When the transformation is complete, you'll see what you've learned. Other people may be there to help us, teach us, guide us along our path, but the lesson to be learned is always ours. Okay, so if you watch my drama channel and I talk about the fact of like, you know, when people say I'm changed, it's not so much about changing as it is about, like this book suggests, evolving into a different version of yourselves. We're constantly evolving and you know, like changing every single moment, right? But are we growing developmentally? Are we like learning and evolving? I think is such a fantastic word, right? You know, I always tell people trust the journey, like, because that's what I was told in life, you know, trust the journey. So whenever somebody says something to me, I'm like, just trust the journey, you know, like, sometimes life takes you places that you don't know you need to go, right? And when we're resistant to it, you can feel it inside. You can feel that resistance. You know, sometimes you just need to, like, go with emotion. Like, okay, my plan today was to leave and go get coffee and do this review at Starbucks and whatever. And I thought, no, I want to sit down and I want to do my meditations first. You know, maybe I needed to feel really emotional about what I just talked about. You know, maybe I needed to hear this meditation. I don't know, but, like, I'm a person that trusts the journey. Like, I really, truly do believe that, you know? And I think it's also like, when we talk about lessons to be learned, it's like the Maya Angelou quote that you guys know I love, that says, when you're in the middle of the biggest tragedy of your life, look up and say thank you, because you're about to learn a very valuable lesson. Well, that tragedy can be anything from the loss of a family member or friend, you know, to a breakup, to losing a career, or, you know, just something tragic in your life that's going on. Tucker and Boo started wrestling and ran into the light. This video does not want to get made. Anyway, they're very settled over here right now. Do you guys want to see them? They're good boys now. I got them to settle down, see? So they're relaxed, and now I can finish the video. But what I was going to say was, you know, like, that's been a hard thing. Like, when I've been going through something, and, like, since I have heard that quote, you know, like, by Maya Angelou years ago and understood it, like, I really, like, in the moment that I'm going through something, like, I look up and I say, like, okay, God, like, you know, what do you have for me in this moment? Like, I'm throwing it to you, okay? And, you know, sometimes the lesson you don't learn for years and years and years. You know, sometimes I've looked back on things and been like, oh, okay, that was the lesson in it, you know? I think the whole idea of suiting up and showing up was something that it was a lesson that was, like, repeated for me until I, like, really learned just to do it, you know? When I was growing up, my mom and my aunt were, like, I mean, if somebody would pass away or something was going on, I mean, like, they literally, and I'm not joking about the tuna casserole, okay? I mean, they literally had, like, a tuna casserole and a loaf of bread over to the person's house and was like, what can we do, okay? And they would just go in and just take over. Like, that's what my mom and my aunt did. I feel like that was, like, maybe small town, old, you know, mentality that we don't have anymore that I miss out on, you know? It wasn't that they were just at the funeral. They were there arranging flowers, you know. They were organizing who was going to speak. They went to the funeral home, you know, with their friends and things like that. I don't feel like we do that as much today, you know. And I've definitely learned from my mother and my aunt, my cousin, my best friend Tanya. You know, my husband is totally a suit up and show up kind of person. You know, I've learned through the years that really, and like when I'm talking about like suiting up and showing up, I mean, it's an old saying of like just put on a suit and show up, right? Like that's your responsibility in that moment. I've really learned that through the years. There's been some difficult moments. I had a very, very close friend of mine that this is like, this video for some reason, A, doesn't want to get made, and B, wants to just pull all the emotions out of me. I had a very close friend of mine that had a cold and died 6 days later. And he had a very specific kind of meningitis. And I remember when his mom called me and she said, you know, we're asking very close friends and family to come and say goodbye if they want. And I said, okay. And she was like, you know, this is where we're at and whatever. Same hospital as my mom, the ICU and everything. And I called Tanya, and I can remember I was upstairs and I was like pacing. I said, Tanya, I can't do this. Like, I cannot go and say goodbye to him. Like, and this was at a period where I had like literally lost like 4 friends in a row, and this was like the last one, and this was like the person I was closest to. And I said, Tanya, I cannot do this. Like, I cannot do this. Like, I cannot just walk in there and say goodbye. Like, I can't do that, you know? And she said, yes, you can, and yes, you will. And she said, that's what we're taught. And she said, he was a good friend for you, or he was a good friend to you, and he was always there for you, and you're going to do the same for him. And I said, okay, you're right, I can do this. I remember I went in there, and Tucker's always so sweet. Whenever I get real emotional, he always comes over to me. I went into the hospital and his family was like sitting in this room like before you went into ICU, and his mom saw me come in and she came out. She's like, how are you doing? How are you? And I literally just like lost it, right? And she's like calm, and she's always like, she's such a fantastic woman, and she's so peaceful and serene, and I just love her. And she just was like, she took my shoulders and she was like, it's okay. She's like, it's okay, feel it, you know, let it out. And I said, I should, you know, like comforting you. And she was like, no. She was like, that's not, don't worry about it. Like, that's not how it works, you know? We take care of each other. She was so sweet. And she was like, you know, do you want to come back and say some things to him? You want to talk to him? Just sit down with him for a little while. And I was like, okay. And it was so weird because when I was coming in there, one of Alex's like really good friends that he used to work with, that I also know, was really good friends with my friend that passed away. And so she was in there and I saw her, and she was coming out when I was going in there. And I just, you know, I just went in there and I sat with him for a few moments. He was in the exact same room that my mother had been in, which that was hard too, but it, you know, and that moment allowed me to like talk to him, you know. I'm so thankful that I showed up for that moment, you know, like that was, I'm sure he probably wasn't even aware that I was there, but you know, for me, that was an important moment in my life. Somebody said to me on a video the other day, like, I've learned to just always suit up and show up. There's been times in the past that I haven't. But now, when it comes to like funerals and showings and, you know, people that have passed, I learned to just suit up and show up. And if you have the opportunity that somebody asks you the honor to be part of that or to say goodbye, why would you ever do that? I mean, each person only has one life here on earth, you know? Like somebody said something to me in a video not too long ago. I think it was a Q&A on my drama video about like not liking funerals and not wanting to go. I mean, who loves funerals? You know what I mean? And I realized how much my attitude had changed about it through the years. You know, probably 20 years ago, I would say I hate funerals too, and I don't go to all of them, you know? And I didn't. And if I did, especially when I was drinking, I made it about me, you know? As alcoholics and addicts, we're really good about, you know, victimizing ourselves in the times of loss. Do you know what I lost? Do you know what he meant to me? I mean, it's always about us. You know, today I have the opportunity to suit up and show up and be of service to others and realize that it's not about me, you know. But I said in that video that when somebody in my life passes, you know, I love the term passing, because I do believe that it's somebody's soul passing from one, you know, dimension or whatever life to another. But like, I also just like the idea of them moving past us, you know, and us paying respect. And I think like the least that we can do to somebody that has, you know, experienced their life and only had one life is to at least show up and acknowledge that. You know, and say, I'm happy that you were in my life, and thank you for the privilege of allowing me to be there. So anyway, that is all I have for this very, very emotional video today that got me all over the place. Just trust the journey. Don't fight it so much. I fought it for so long. I was so resistant to it. You know, I fight some things today, but most things I try to look at and go, okay, maybe there's a reason why this is happening right now, you know? And the good things too, the good things, because we sometimes want to ignore the good things. So, you know, experience the good things too and allow that to be part of your lesson as well. Anyway, I love you guys, and I know this meditation was all over the place, this video, but maybe you like that, I don't know. Anyway, I'll just trust the journey. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.